Today on Weekend Watercolour we're going to be experimenting with spring florals, and I'm just going to paint a selection of flowers that come to my head. As I've said to you, the whole object of Weekend Watercolour is that we don't have a plan. You can choose whatever flowers you like. You might want to work from a reference image, but I'm just working from my imagination because I want to paint quite a loose feel to this practice piece. I'm practicing for a Mother's Day card that I'm going to make, and I want it to be quite a loose decorative feel. If you want to see how my Mother's Day card turned out, then please click on the card above and that will take you to the Mother's Day card. So I'm starting off by painting roses. I really enjoy painting roses and drawing roses because I find it quite relaxing, because you can get quite lost in all of the rotation of the patterns and the designs as it unfolds. And I'm starting by making a spiral shape in the middle. Sometimes people find it quite difficult, but as long as you start with that spiral shape in the middle and then you gradually move outwards. The other thing to remember is that your paint or your pastel or your pencil will be darker in the centre, and then you need to make it lighter as you move out. So what you need to do is start in the middle with your darker paint. Don't add as much water, and then as you move out, gradually add more water to your paint, and that will give the natural effect of the rose as it would appear. As I said, I don't have an image with me, so I'm just using my imagination, and I've decided that those are the petals that I am going to have as my outer petals. Sometimes people overdo it and they say they don't know when to stop when they're painting a rose, but the best thing to do is just take a step back and think, oh okay, is this where I'm going to now add my outer petals, the ones that branch out and become wider. So that's what I would suggest you do. I've decided that this is where I'm going to stop, and I'm now going to use another colour. I'm going to do a purple rose, and again I'm making quite a dark mix for the centre, and I'll add water later. I'm starting by doing my spiral shape in the middle, and then I'm gradually going to move outwards, and as I move gradually more outwards I will add water. I am going to try and paint a larger rose this time, but obviously, as I said to you previously, there will become a point where I will decide that that's where my rose needs to end. So now I'm going to add a few rose buds. Around the image I'll be experimenting with different leaf types and different types of flowers for my card design. Sometimes it's good to have these pages in sketchbooks, and sometimes before you're working on a piece of work, just so you can experiment to see what your work looks like. Making a mix of peach for this next flower, and I'm using cadmium red pale hue, alizarin crimson and white. I don't often use white as a colour, but it really does help to get the peachy tone. And I'm going to now make a flower. It's more of a fictional flower. It's kind of a mixture between an anemone and a poppy. It's got those kind of loose petals, and what I tend to do is put 3 loose petals at the top and 2 at the bottom to give an illusion of depth. And then what I will do is I will put some loose black stamens in the middle to try and give the flower a realistic effect. I'm now going to start on the last flower, and it's going to be loosely based on a rose. And what I'm going to do, I've started with the stamen type design in the middle, and I've used a mix of yellow ochre and cadmium yellow, and then I'm going to add violet around the edges here. And as you'll see, it's the same kind of design as the inside of the rose, but we won't be having the petals on the outside. It's more like a tight rose, and then it will end with the edge around the side. Now, as I was painting this, I looked at it and I thought it was too cold a violet, so later I will go over this with the warmer mauve purple. Now I'm going to concentrate on foliage or leaves. First thing I'm going to do is mix a variety of greens, because I want to have variety and depth within my leaves. And I'm going to start by adding sap green and hooker's green, and add Payne's grey to those, and throughout the process I might add more Payne's grey just to darken them up, as I said, to give depth. So I will start off by adding some leaves, and I will add those at the top and then work my way down. I'm going to start by adding some leaves that are a lighter shade, and I want to add leaves that look more like rose leaves. I will start by adding the tip of my brush really lightly, and then as I move out I will make the shades of the shapes of the leaves more rounded. And then what I will do is I'll add a tiny little dot of the paint and spread that out to make the leaf a little bit darker and to give it more depth. I'm now going to add a more rounded shape of leaf, because as I said, it's good to have a variety. When you have a flower arrangement, you wouldn't just have the rose leaves, you would have a different variety. So this is a leaf shape I've seen before on a larger and smaller scale. I'm going to make it quite pale, and then in the foreground I'm going to have a smaller leaf, and this is a shrub leaf called box. And I've got this in the foreground, and I'm going to have it contrasting with a darker shade just so it stands out a bit more and gives the image some depth. Next flower, which looks a bit like a small berry, I am mixing some sepia with the mauve to make a warm brown colour, and I'm going to paint some branches and then make a small bud shape at the end of each of those branch shapes to create the flower. I'm now going to go over the roses with some darker tones just to make sure that they've got that 3D effect to them and make sure that they pop out. enjoyed this clip, then make sure you check out more clips like this in the watercolour playlist. Don't forget to look in the description below for details of products used in today's clip, and if you have any ideas for content or questions, leave a comment below. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future content.